Helping businesses with AI is a massive revenue opportunity for your MSP. Of course, it's the thing that everyone's talking about every day, but when it comes to actually using it, the ordinary business owners and managers that you service are a little uncertain. They might be using it as a personal productivity tool, but how do they best roll it out in a way that benefits their entire business? My special guest right now has some answers about this and how you can help people in a way that drives growth for your MSP.
So I'm Alex Bacon and I'm the founder of Brightkeel AI.
And it's so cool to have you on the show, Alex. We are going to be looking today at how do you scale your MSP with AI? And as you're about to tell us in a second, you have a really, really good marketing background within MSPs. But it's so good that you're now taking your brain and looking at everything that an MSP can do to make themselves more efficient and grow faster using the AI tools that we are all coming to love and trust. So tell us a little bit about your background. You're based in the UK like myself. In fact, I'm surprised you and I have never run into each other before, because I know we've both been, well, I've been in the channel 10 years and I think you've been around a little bit longer. So give us the brief version of your story. Where were you and what have you achieved there?
So I've worked in marketing for 20 odd years, most of that in MSPs, and was in one MSP for quite a long time. And then that was went through a merger and acquisition. And then more recently, I was the marketing director at Cloud Direct. So I joined there as the only marketer. Quite a few years ago. I think I was there about 8 years in total. And when I joined, there were about 4 million of revenue. And I left that earlier this year when they're doing around 38 million. So quite a big growth journey there, both in terms of the marketing and the business as a whole.
Yeah, I bet. And I bet you went from being the only person sitting at the marketing desk to then, I must have been weird the day you got another marketing person joining you, and maybe even weirder when one day you got your own office or your own section of the office. When you take an MSP from, 4 millions, in itself is pretty impressive, but to take it up to that kind of size, how does the marketing change, and what kind of decisions? How do the decisions change as you're on that journey?
Yeah, so it's a really interesting question and a lot to cover. So I'll try and sort of touch on it fairly briefly, but when I look at that journey, the first year coincided with a couple of acquisitions. So we acquired a couple of smaller MSPs. So one of the first jobs there was integrating those into the business. And of course, you've then got your upsell and your cross-sell opportunity and looking at sort of more of that going into the existing customer base. And I know you talk a lot around kind of the white space mapping. And so that was one of the things that we did at that point. And then as we scaled, it was really looking at having multiple channels of our lead generation. So what I mean by that was looking at partnerships, and Microsoft was a big partner of ours, but also other partnerships, and looking at that as one channel, looking into the customer base as another channel, and then looking into new leads and new opportunities as the other channel. And then as we scaled, and I built out a team, we were able to do more and more and look beyond just doing kind of point campaigns where initially we might sort of say, okay, well, we'll run an event, but actually tying all those all together into holistic multi-touch campaigns. And that's really what's sort of helped us scale. And the success of those campaigns compound ultimately, and they're amplified through partners. They're amplified through our existing clients and getting them involved in the campaign. So getting them to help create the content, getting them to help to speak at events, for example, and also looking at trade bodies or marketing partners as well. So that's a really good angle to go into a particular industry, is partner with someone who already knows that industry and someone who's already in that industry and who already has the captured attention of the audience. And they're typically then talking the language of that customer, and they're talking at the business level. So you can then go in and support from a technology side of things. And a lot of that was through SMB. And then as we grew, we went into bigger and larger customers.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I guess as you become a bigger entity and there's there's a lot more revenue and a lot more resources, you have that luxury of being able to look at these bigger ideas, the partnerships, the events, and multi-touch point campaigns. And there'll be, thousands of MSPs listening to this on the podcast or watching this on YouTube who are thinking, well, I'd love to be there. I'd love to be doing all of that stuff. My advice is always actually, start small, get the basics right first, put in place a marketing machine first. And then as you grow and as you get bigger and you have more resources, you can start to look at those things. And as you said, you actually unlock bigger and more impressive clients as you're doing that kind of stuff. I'm interrupting myself to ask, do you have a copy of my book yet? MSP Marketing Start Here shows you how to go from 0 leads to new clients. It's the basics of marketing for your MSP explained in a 45-minute read, and you can get it as a paperback, on Kindle, and on Audible. Go to mspmarketingedge.com/books, or better still, scan the QR code. Let's stop looking backwards. Let's start looking forward. So at some point last year, you exited that business. You're now here doing your own thing. Obviously, AI and an AI play is a smart move for anyone starting a business, last year or this year. What is it exactly that you're now doing? Because you're not just working with MSPs on their marketing now.
No, so I'm still doing marketing consultancy and fractional CMO work, but Brightkeel AI is all around adoption of AI for businesses. So we're working with businesses to really help look at how they can start using AI, and that really sort of looks at some workshops, which I'll touch on in a minute, because that's kind of where we look to partner with MSPs, but audits and assessments to look at the opportunities for using AI and automation. And I kind of use those terms interchangeably, because actually a lot of it is automation rather than AI for their processes, and ultimately how businesses can scale without necessarily always adding on headcount to scale. And so that model that we engage with really has of 3 areas. It's that assessment and audit that I mentioned that helps create a roadmap. We then look at enablement, which kind of looks at the workshops and the training side of things. And then we look at implementation, and that's where we partner with businesses to actually do the technology delivery.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what are we, like three something years, maybe a little bit more, since sort of ChatGPT went mainstream? Because obviously it's been there for many years, but most people weren't aware of it. That was the point that AI became a thing, and obviously we know it's got so much better. It's got incrementally better almost monthly since then, and there's been the explosion of all the other tools. Do you see still that the marketplace out there, so the ordinary business owners and managers that MSPs want to reach, do you still see that are they still dipping their toe, or are they separated into a small percentage of power users and other people who are scared of it, or actually is there a more widespread adoption? What are you kind of seeing at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, it is a real mixture, obviously, whoever you speak to. What I'm tending to find is a lot of people are using it quite often in their personal life more than their business life. So they are familiar with the technology, and you can't get away from it in the news. So again, they're aware of it, and you tend to sort of get maybe 1 or 2 who are heavy individual users. But as a business, a lot of them have not really embedded it, especially the SMBs I'm talking to. They haven't really identified quite the role that it's going to play. They haven't necessarily got the confidence to use it day to day. And again, I use that term kind of AI and automation interchangeably, because that, whilst has been around for a long time, has kind of come to the forefront off the back of the AI conversation, that businesses are now really looking at saying, well, we can't just keep growing by adding more and more headcount. Actually, we need to look at the efficiencies that we've got. Have we got the right processes? Are they the most efficient way? But also those people that you have got, making sure that they're doing the valuable work. So making sure they're doing things like strategy and speaking to customers, instead of doing the heavy lifting of admin tasks that we know can be automated now.
Yeah, and for the MSPs that are looking after these people, what are the biggest opportunities for them right now? So what are you advising them? Is it consultative, or is it literally pulling your sleeves up and getting in and actually building things and showing them how to use AI to automate processes and grow without more people?
Yeah, I think there's huge opportunity here for MSPs. I mean, the thing that excites me about this is it's a technology that your customers are actually interested in, and it's probably the biggest opportunity that MSPs have got to merge those conversations between technology and business. And so the MSPs the end customers are looking at this and saying, how is this going to transform my business? How do I operate my business? How does this align to my business goals, objectives, strategy? They're not looking at it necessarily from a technology angle, but it is a technology that they're thinking about. And I think that is absolutely transformative. We've seen the wave of cloud, for example, but that was still a technology conversation. That wasn't really something that was being discussed, particularly in the boardrooms or in terms of business strategy. And this is. So there's a real opportunity here to combine those two things. And really, that's what I'm doing is going in and having those consultative conversations, talking about AI, but for non-techie people, aligning it to business strategy, aligning it to opportunities. And then there's an opportunity for the MSPs to actually look at, rolling up their sleeves and delivering on some of this. Because the reality is, whilst a lot of AI and automation is painted as being really easy, some of the Gen AI stuff absolutely is, but some of the automation stuff and some of the stuff you go into Copilot, for example, the customer's still never going to really get involved in that. That's not what they're in the business of. So there's still a huge opportunity there for MSPs to come in and to work on that. Not to mention then the opportunities that it creates for other things, such as your cybersecurity that you look around that, your data migrations, the data that you're feeding into AI, your SharePoint, as well as anything to do with the automation and the agent building.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess we can look at it that the end customer, the business owner or manager, they were never interested in configuring their SharePoint. Right? They just don't want to do that. They want someone else to do it for them. Why would AI be any different? And even though AI is an easier interface, it's as you say, when you start actually integrating things and putting things together, there are levels of complexity in that. Alex, this has been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, I know that you actually have your own podcast, which is about this very own subject. So do you want to tell us three things? Number one, tell us about your podcast. Number two, tell us what you can do to help MSPs. And then finally, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Perfect. Yeah. So the podcast is Scaling with AI. So you can find that on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, wherever you are. How I can help MSPs is really bridging that gap between customers who are hearing about this in the news. They're interested, but a bit scared and a bit curious. And the MSPs who have all of this capability to deliver on that. And really, I sit in the middle between helping the customers understand what is possible, get them thinking in the right way, get them starting to feel comfortable with this so that the MSPs can deliver on it. And how to get in touch with me. So the website is brightkeel.ai. So that's BRIGHTKEEL.ai. And I'm very active on LinkedIn. So add me on LinkedIn, follow me on LinkedIn, Alex Bacon.
Paul Green's MSP Marketing Edge.